Hi, I'm Claudia Revilla, and I am currently residing in Milford, Ohio. Some things that I'm looking forward to this fall is to spread information about donut economics, renewable energy, natural cycles, and planetary boundaries to the students who visit Civic Garden Center in Cincinnati as a field trip facilitator, and just integrating what I learned from them during our group activities and pursuing more creative endeavors for community building this fall, like ecstatic dance and photography card binding. I am part of the Training in Applied Agroecology Program Cohort 6. I'm going to be sharing some information over agrobiodiversity today in this presentation. So what is agrobiodiversity? In a nutshell, it's a vital subset of biodiversity, which is developed and actively managed by farmers, herders, and fishers. Many components of agrobiodiversity would not survive without this human interference. Local knowledge and culture are integral parts of agrobiodiversity management. So the value of biodiversity from social, economic, and ecological standpoints. So we have instrumental value of biodiversity, where the focus is on an economic value a species can provide. And this is grouped into 4 different categories. So we have provisioning services, where the benefits of biodiversity include lumber, fur, meat, crops, water, and fiber. We have regulating services. So the benefits of biodiversity include climate regulation, flood control, and water purification. Cultural services, where the benefits of biodiversity provide aesthetic, spiritual, or recreational value. And supporting services, where the benefits of biodiversity allow ecosystems to exist, such as primary production, soil formation, and nutrient cycling. So then we have intrinsic value of biodiversity, which is just the focus on the inherent value of species can provide that's not tied to any economic benefit. So celebrating the circle of agrobiodiversity in hopes of moving away from dead-end monocultures, the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations have estimated that 75% of the Earth's food supply is composed of the 12 crops and 5 livestock species we see in the diagram. So we have 61% of our calories come from these 12 crops, and the remaining 14% come from these 5 animals. And this really impacts our health, our food supply chain, and our farmers. Just walking into a supermarket, the majority of the products on the shelves that we see are composed of wheat, sugarcane, rice, and corn, which are carbohydrate rich and protein poor. A lot of fibers and micronutrients are stripped during this food processing, which leaves us with mostly calorie-dense food products. So these foods may contain untested genetically modified genes, pesticides, or fertilizers, which pose a risk to human health and to farmers who apply them. And then our food supply. So this is deeply impacted as well. Just the diversity of seeds and crops enables farmers to meet a range of needs and challenges, especially in the face of climate instability. So food that's sold locally for local markets ensures access and stable prices for consumers. But crops that are grown monoculturally are more vulnerable to pests, diseases, climate change, and poor soils. So the reliable supply of nutrient-dense food is threatened for local communities when the fertile land and water is utilized for cash crops, which are ultimately exported. And as industrial agriculture corporations pursued maximizing yields, diversity of crops have shrunk into single standardized varieties that allowed for economies of scale. So this has left us with the real danger of relying too heavily on a single variety of crops. And of course, this affects our farmers. Just in our increasingly consolidated modern food system, retailers and manufacturers hold significant power and leverage, dictating the types of crops and farmers should grow. So relying on only a few crops as raw ingredients simplifies inventory management and supply chains. So with only a few crops in demand, many farmers are left with no choice but to grow these crops and be subject to more intense competition with other farmers, and can lead to devastating low returns. So agrobiodiversity in light of food sovereignty systems. Food sovereignty recognizes that control over the food system needs to remain in the hands of farmers, for whom farming is both a way of life and a means of producing food. It also recognizes the contribution of indigenous peoples, pastoralists, food forest dwellers, workers, and fishers to the food system. So it ensures that the food is produced in a culturally acceptable manner and in harmony with the ecosystem in which it is produced. And this is how traditional food production systems have regenerated their soils, water, biodiversity, and environmental conditions for generations. So what can we do to provide a solution for this problem? As consumers, we can choose to incorporate less of the crops mentioned in slide 4, especially wheat, rice, sugar, and corn, and opt for alternatives. Moringa, amaranth, millet, lentils, and pumpkin are some examples of crops with high nutritional value that are resilient to droughts and can grow in poor soils where other crops fail. We can support holistic methods of agriculture that are in alignment with the principles of food sovereignty, such as planting seeds developed by farmers that do not contain genes from different species and proliferating plants that support our pollinators and that feed the soil. We can purchase goods and services from small local scale food producers where farmers, pastoralists, and fishers have control over their land and make empowering decisions about the livelihoods they wish to participate within. And just getting involved in your own community's agricultural programs, either through volunteering or work exchanges or facilitating and attending workshops, and just growing our awareness of agrobiodiversity. These are the sources that I used in my presentation. I highly suggest you check them out and read through them and continue to learn more about agrobiodiversity. Thank you.